What's happening, guys, and welcome to the show, the preview show of Arsenal vs PSG Champions League semi-final. Before we get into that, what an amazing fight between Eubank Jr. and Conor Ben. Eubank got the W, but what an amazing performance from both men. Absolute warriors. I was backing Eubank Jr. He's one of my favourite fighters. I really respect him. I loved his dad, and I think he's a fantastic fighter, but Conor Ben did get my respect with that fantastic performance, but I do think it was a conclusive victory for Eubank Jr. It was a competitive fight, but it wasn't close. I think the judges' scorecards were very, very accurate. Ben was competitive all the way through the fight, but Eubanks won the majority of the rounds, and you would expect him to win that fight, being the bigger man, being the more experienced fighter, and being the more technically skilled fighter as well. So yeah, just want to big up to both guys for entertaining us, the whole world, watching that fight. So, and also the entrance by Senior was epic when Chris Eubank Senior turned up with his boy, and I was happy to see that, as I'm sure everyone was happy to see him supporting his son in the biggest fight of his career so far. But yeah, onwards and upwards for both guys, Conor Ben and Chris Eubank Jr. So let's get into this. Arsenal versus PSG. Now, listen, we've just seen Liverpool win the Premier League at Cantor. So Arsenal and Mikel Arteta need to win this Champions League. All right? We need to win this Champions League because they gave up on the Premier League in December. They threw in the towel. They made, which I think is completely wrong. I've never seen this before. Pathetic. Completely wrong mentality. But they've done that. They put all the eggs in the Champions League basket. So they need to win the Champions League. Because if they don't win the Champions League, it's been a failure of a season. So let's get into tomorrow's game from a tactical point of view. And I'm gonna give you what I think will be the Arsenal starting 11. And also a score prediction. From a tactical point of view, listen, we beat PSG earlier in the Champions League, during the league stage, the early part of the Champions League. We beat them 2-0, I think, at the Emirates. But PSG are different now. They're a much more different proposition. So Arsenal need to go into this game and they need to impose themselves on PSG. So I've got a little bit of a cold. There's just this change of temperature. 1 minute it's hot, 1 minute it's cold. London weather. But they need to impose themselves on PSG. Now, Partey suspended. And from what I can understand, Moreno and Jorginho might not be available for this game. So I think the back four, I think it'll be Raya in goal, and then the back four will speak for itself. Lewis Skelly, Kivior, Saliba, and Timber. Now the midfield, I think he's going to go with a midfield of Declan Rice, Ranieri and Odegaard. And as with a front three of Martinelli, Saka and Trossard. I think that's how he's going to go. Trossard's been in fantastic form. And that midfield three would be very attacking. It would be very attacking. So I think we need to impose ourselves on PSG. We need to impose our game on PSG. All right? They're not unbeatable. They're not indestructible. We've beat them already. Aston Villa beat them at Villa Park, even though they got knocked out on aggregate. So they are beatable. So Arsenal need to beat them in the first leg before we go in the second leg to the Parc de France. We need to win this game. We need to take a lead into the second leg in the Parc de France. Without a doubt about that, mate. So that's how I think he should go about it. I think it will be the typical same 4-3-3 formation that the gaffer goes with. But I think that midfield will be a key part of the game. How they match up with the midfield of Vitinha, Ruiz and Neves, that fantastic midfield that PSG have. Fantastic footballers, but they're not the most physical. They can be physically dominated, as you saw Villa do, and as I believe that Arsenal can do as well. With Partey, we would be a bit more physically imposing with Declan Rice and Odegaard. But that midfield of Neves, Vitinha and Ruiz, as fantastic as footballers they are, they can be physically dominated. Whether or not that, you know, the midfield of Odegaard, Ranieri and Declan, if that is going to be the midfield, can do that. I mean, Ranieri's a big boy. That it's a youthful midfield. It's a midfield with legs as well, and we need to take advantage. The Emirates crowd need to be the extra man on the pitch, like the gaffer Arteta has said. The crowd needs to be rocking. We need to nip them in the bud straight away and dominate the game. We need to dominate the game, because going to the Parc de France and we're not at advantage, it might be difficult. But I do think it's a 50-50 game. I think both teams are very evenly matched. I think PSG are going to go with that sort of similar team, Donnarumma, Marquinhos, the two great fullbacks that they have, Hakimi, and the midfield of Ruiz, Vitinha, Neves, and that front three. You got Dembele, you got Doué, you got Kavric, Schiller. That is a dangerous attack that they have. But then again, with Saka back now and Trossard in form and Martinelli finding form, we have a very dangerous attack with a lot of pace on the wings with Saka and Martinelli. But they also have a very dangerous attack, but they are beatable. They are beatable, and we need to go into this game with the right attitude and impose ourselves on this game and dominate the game and take an advantage into the Parc de France. Now, you have Inter Milan and Barcelona on the other side, the other semi-final. Inter Milan their form seems to be getting a bit shaky at a very, losing the cup final, Coppa Italia, losing the cup final to AC Milan. I think they lost again to Roma on the weekend, and Napoli are now 3 points ahead with equal games. Barcelona, they're on course for a quadruple. They've won both of the Spanish Cups. They've won the Copa del Rey, beating Real Madrid in extra time, 3-2. They're probably going to win La Liga. So they're on course for a historic quadruple under Hansi Flick. So I do think that Barcelona are the best team out of the last four. I do think they're the favourites. And I think they will be a very hard team to beat because they're fantastic. But as for Arsenal versus PSG, it's a very winnable game over both legs. And it's a game that I think we can win. It's all about going for it. We know we've got the defensive solidarity. We know we've got the defensive solidarity at the back. We're defensively solid. Partey is a big miss with the suspension. I'd be much more comfortable to see Partey, Odegaard and Rice midfield because I think that's fantastic. And I'm glad that the club has also opened up contract talks to keep Partey, because I think he's got a lot more to give this club, and he's a fantastic midfielder, a fantastic number 6. Moreno's a miss, but Trossard's hit form at the right time. So I do think that we will have enough to beat PSG, and I'm going to predict a score of 3-1 to Arsenal. I'm going to predict a score of 3-1 to Arsenal. All right? Hopefully we can take a little cushion there to the Parc de France, and we can do a job there. We can do a job there in the second leg on them. So listen, the season is hanging on this Champions League. They threw in the towel in the Premier League. So if it's going to be a successful season, this ain't enough. Getting to the final and losing won't be enough. They need to win it. And it's very winnable. So, please, cat, don't do that. Oh, actually, no, just my cat. So, this is Arsenal's biggest game since 2019 Europa League final in Baku, which we got done by Chelsea. And that game would have got us back into the Champions League after a long time out of it. So this is Arsenal's biggest game since that final. Being able to get to the Champions League final and get within touch and distance on winning the Champions League. So let's see how we get on tomorrow. Let's get behind the lads, and let's hope that we can do them at the Emirates and take that advantage into the second leg at the Parc de France. So all that good stuff. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you for my reaction of this monumental game tomorrow. Champions League semi-final. Have a great evening, guys. Peace.